Welcome everyone to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about lowering your AWS bill today. Obviously, this is a very hot topic at the moment, and we're going to discuss instant opportunities to reduce spend along with best practices, tools, and techniques for driving your AWS bill down over time. We'll also cover how Mission can help you get there more quickly and touch on some other best practices and topics as well. Just before we get started, I would like to point out that within the BrightTalk interface, you should be able to see some feedback and attachment and link sections. So as you're going through, you can feel free to submit questions, and the attachments and links will include some data sheets covering some of the services and programs we're going to be talking about today. So with that, let's get started. So my name is Jonathan LaCour. I am the CTO at Mission. So a little bit of information about me is I'm a technologist by background, programmer and cloud strategist. I'm also a bit of a bourbon junkie, which in these wonderful times is a great little hobby to have after a long day of quarantine, having a nice whiskey. I also have deep experience with cloud infrastructure and cloud services as an operator, builder, and user. And I am joined today by Jason Gay, who I will let introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jason Gay. I'm a senior cloud consultant here at Mission. I've been with the company for just under 6 years, and I've been in this industry for about 20 years at this point. I have become an AWS cost management guru and junkie over the past few years, which has been a lot of fun, especially in the past couple of months. It's been a crazy whirlwind of time. And in my spare time, I thoroughly enjoy making homemade ice cream with my children.
Nice. Well, Jason is in Boston, and I'm all the way over in Los Angeles, so I'm not sure you can FedEx me some of that ice cream, but that sounds pretty great. Thank you, Jason. In addition to who we are, let's talk about who Mission is. So we are a next-generation managed service provider and AWS Premier Consulting Partner. And we offer a very comprehensive suite of services kind of across the entire AWS cloud journey, from architecting to migration, management, and optimization. Now, we're not going to touch on all of these things today, but we're going to mostly focus in on optimization. So let's discuss the agenda. What are we going to cover today? Well, quite a bit. We're going to start with some background, right? There's a lot of challenges when it comes to cost optimization in the cloud, and it's really more of a journey than a destination. So we want to go through a lot of detail there about kind of the best practices and processes, people, and tools that you need to implement to really have a strong cost management practice. And then we're going to dive into a powerful tool called CloudHealth that you can use to drive optimization. And we'll show you how Mission actually uses that tool to help our customers. Finally, we will review how Mission can help you in that cloud optimization journey and help you start saving right away, because I know that's a top priority for many of you on the call. So let's dive in and start discussing the broad concepts of cost optimization in AWS. In order to do that really effectively, I think it's good to illustrate the challenge by looking at a typical spend pattern for organizations that adopt cloud. Now, the cloud has a lot of benefits, as we all know. That's why we're all on it, right? It's a fully self-service, on-demand model, consumption-based platform, unprecedented power and agility, lots of great reasons to adopt cloud. But for many businesses, as they dive in and start deploying workloads, they don't really have any sort of cost containment or governance strategy in place in advance. And what that can lead to, without those programmatic strategic cost management techniques encompassing people, processes, and tools, what you'll see is a continuous climb. So from a cost and reporting standpoint, users are going to continue to provision new resources, they're going to fail to right-size or shut them down, and they're not going to take advantage of all the financial instruments that are available to keep the cost in control. So, many people go through this pattern, and they realize they're spending more than originally planned, and they turn to reactive actions and what we call Band-Aid actions, such as doing major reactive one-time reserved instance purchases. Now, as you'll see in this curve here, it does make an impact, but it's short-lived because it's not a programmatic or strategic, kind of process. So let's instead look at what a spend pattern for an organization that has really a strong practice looks like. So this is a more ideal spend pattern, and what we're actually looking at is a real kind of track of a mission customer that we've been working with for a while. So they've engaged us to drive this programmatic cost optimization in a continuous way, and you can see the outcome, right? It's much more steady state and predictable. In environments like theirs that are mature and still growing, albeit gradually, you want to see a steady recurring monthly cost, including any amortized kind of one-time purchases each month. So to get to this point, we have applied a whole series of optimization techniques, right? It's not just one thing. And we're providing that cost containment and continuous monitoring and actions to keep the cost in check. And that includes using cloud-native monitoring tools to increase visibility, take advantage of cost-cutting techniques with lifecycle policies, right-sizing of instances, and purchasing options, and a whole bunch more. So one such technique that you'll see here is rather than doing these large reactive RI purchases, we're constantly evaluating opportunities to do smaller strategic RI purchases and right-sizing. And that can actually end up being more impactful over time. So just to go to the next layer here, it's important to talk about some cost optimization design principles to keep in mind. And let's definitely keep these in mind as we walk through the rest of the presentation. So the first design principle to discuss is to embrace that consumption model that the cloud provides. So AWS gives you the ability to spin resources up and down on demand, and you only pay for what you use. So to really take advantage of this model, you don't want to just leave idle resources running 24/7. And there's a lot of other ways you can embrace that consumption model to be sure that you're optimizing for your costs. So it's a really good principle to have. Next up is to measure the overall efficiency and to tag your resources. So this is all about getting visibility, getting a handle on what is going on in your environment, what's running, which resources are deployed, why are they running, and to be able to allocate those costs to projects, cost centers, etc. And the key thing here is that visibility is one of the most critical factors in creating an effective cost management practice. So we should also touch on governance. As we mentioned earlier, the on-demand nature and the self-service nature of the cloud, it lends itself to what I call cloud sprawl, right? And having governance policies in place is sort of like city planning, right? To ensure that you don't get into a sprawling cloud footprint. Instead, you have a thoughtful and strategic way to grow as your business needs change. And finally, there are significant opportunities for cost savings that arise when you invest in evolving your workload. So some of these final design principles really get into that. So re-architecting to become more efficient, taking advantage of AWS's managed services, and moving off of platforms with prohibitive licensing burdens. And all of this is tied together by optimizing over time. So let's talk about that. Because as I mentioned frequently so far, cost optimization is a journey. It is not a destination. And this is a life cycle that we really like to use to understand a holistic perspective on cost optimization. They all come together as part of this continuous life cycle. So here are 4 general phases of the life cycle: analysis, cost optimization, cloud governance, and usage and cost monitoring. So in addition to those 4 phases, you'll see 28 distinct activities across these phases that make up a complete cost optimization practice, such as tracking usage and costs, right-sizing, taking advantage of private pricing programs, cost allocation, and the implementation of lights-out policies. So every customer environment and where they are in their journey is a bit different. And we recommend that cloud optimization isn't treated like this one-time project, but you really look at it as this regular process of refinement and improvement. So for example, if you are currently in sort of a phase of analysis and moving into cost optimization, it's important that you don't stop there, but you continue on to think about how you can apply governance policies as the next step to kind of create boundaries for future cloud adoption, because the problem isn't going to go away with one set of analysis and cost optimization. So I know many of you are probably thinking to yourself, wow, this is a bit overwhelming, okay? And I definitely hear you. I think there is a lot to consider, but the good news is that there are tools, services, and systems that can really help you get there faster. And you don't have to do it all on your own, and you don't have to do it all in one shot. There are incremental steps you can take to get there. And I will say that at the end of today's presentation, we will talk about one cost optimization path that you can kind of walk down to get from zero to hero, right, when it comes to optimization. So we'll bring it all together for you. So far, we've really talked a lot about kind of the people and process side of things, right? And that's very important, but it's also important to consider tools. So Mission is actually partnered with a company called CloudHealth, and they are the creators of a leading cost management platform, or CMP, on the market. So the great thing about CloudHealth is that it connects to your AWS accounts, and it provides management, recommendation, and optimization capabilities. And it does that with in-depth, customizable reporting and alerting. And once deployed and configured in your environment, it can do a lot of great things for you, creating visibility to help you get a handle on those costs. You'll get recommendations, and you get some really actionable next steps. So Mission is actually a customer of CloudHealth as well. So we actually use it ourselves to drive cost optimization in our customer environments. And we really, really love it. So to give you an idea of how CloudHealth can help you start putting some of these principles into practice, I'm going to hand things over to Jason, and he's actually going to give you a quick demonstration. So Jason, take it away.
Excellent. Hey, everybody. So we're going to start off, and we're going to go through CloudHealth here, and we're going to take a peek at the main dashboard. And this dashboard is going to show us a rolling 13 months worth of cost usage information, and it's going to break it down for us by service. So we can see in here, if we mouse over any of these categories, it tells us specifically what our cost was in that given month. So for example, in February here, I'm sorry, this is March, we are looking at EC2 compute costs, $565,000. But this graph can be kind of challenging to read because we have these really large prepays for reserved instances, and we have savings plan purchases. So we can use CloudHealth to just simply remove them from the graph as quick as a click of a button. And that makes this graph a whole lot more usable and easy to view and spot trends. Additionally, inside of CloudHealth, we have a pulse report. So this is our health check report here. Nice, easy thing to look at here for cost optimization options are going to be things like, where are my unattached and unused EBS volumes? So I can see right here that we have close to $200 a month worth of wasted cost from 34 EBS volumes that aren't attached to anything. I can click on this, pop it open for me, and it will bring up a nice report showing every single EBS volume that isn't attached to a resource. So if I want to kind of hone in on this a little bit, I can go and sort this out by monthly costs, what it's costing me. Obviously go for the big stuff first, figure out what it is that these resources might be. So this is a volume that's sitting here that has been unattached since March 17th, so for about 2 weeks now, and that volume costs us $100 a month. If we don't need that, we can get rid of it. All right, we're going to go head over to our cost history reports again. This is the same dashboard we saw, or same report we saw on our main dashboard, but now we have the ability to slice this up a little bit differently. So within this report now, we can actually categorize things by various different services. So we're looking at service items here. We could take a look at this and say, let's categorize this by region. Where do I have my services deployed? And we can mouse over any of these things and say, all right, and I've got the majority of my services here in US East 1 in Virginia. Got some stuff that's not in a region. That might be things like Route 53 or support or CloudFront. And if you want to click on that, we can click on it, and it will bring up a listing and show Amazon's detailed billing records of exactly what it is we're being charged for in that region, or in that item inside the box. So we can download this to a CSV, and we can play with it and manipulate it further outside of the platform if you want to. But where the real power of this comes in I feel is in our ability to categorize things by perspectives. So in this case, we have an environment tag inside the organization, and we want to look at this via the environment tag. So we can start seeing I've got all this cost given toward production or allocated toward production, some stuff that's missing an environment tag here. We've got some things here in staging and so on and so forth, and a dev environment. So we could carve this up by a tag. We could carve it up by a month, by an account if we want to look at it. So we can look at this, where am I actually spending my money? Is it going all into that big sandbox account, which is making it really difficult to see all of this? Simply hide it. We can look at what else is out there. All right. We're going to go look at EC2 instance costs next. So in our first view of this, we're going to see our EC2 instance costs based on usage type. So in this case, we see about 50% of it or so, just under 50% is run as partial upfront RIs. We see close to 45% of it or so is here at about on demand. And then the remaining costs are no upfront RIs. So maybe we want to look at this a little bit differently. Maybe we don't want to see it by reservation type. Maybe we're looking for instance type families. So where are my costs actually being used? What type of instances are being used? Here I've broken this out by family. So we can see that we're looking at I3s, R5s, C3s, M5s, and so on. Now if you want to correlate this from cost to usage quantities, we have a usage chart that we can bring up, and I'm going to just switch that over to the same thing, to instance families. We'll categorize that. And we can really start to see that the R5s, we have the largest quantity of R5 instances. But if we switch back to this view, it is not our largest cost. So it's always fascinating to me to kind of go back and forth and take a peek at what's costing me the most versus what am I using the most of. I'm going to move on through here. We've got right-sizing recommendations inside of CloudHealth. This is one of my favorite tools to play around with. This is going to evaluate all of our EC2 usage, and it's going to tell us based on a CPU score, memory score, disk score. So in this case, let's take a peek at some of these metrics. Our CPU score for this top-line instance here averages around 3%, maxes out at 44%, and its minimum over the last month was 1%. Memory, similar boat, right? We're seeing 45% or so average memory over the course of the month. It peaked at 85%, and minimum was about 3%. So CloudHealth looks over here, and it says, hey, we were running an R5 4 extra large instance on Linux. The projected costs are based on possible hours that it's being used and attached storage, but the actual current price, if this thing were to be running 24/7, is $748 a month. CloudHealth is saying you should migrate this based on its usage down to an R5 2 extra large, and that can save you close to $360 a month. So what Jonathan was talking about earlier with there's multiple ways to save cost, this is where I like to start. Let's start by right-sizing some big low-hanging fruit. We can break this up by various different environments. For the purpose of this demo, I'm not going to go and do that. But I also wanted to touch on one last thing inside of CloudHealth before I hand it back, and that is security recommendations. Security recommendations are really handy. We can evaluate these against an AWS security best practices, or we can also evaluate against CIS foundations. We can build our own. The two that come in handy out of the box are both AWS, can't speak today, AWS security best practices as well as CIS foundations. But this is really handy to take a look at, do I have users that haven't rotated passwords in a while? Simply click on this, we open these things up, and it's going to give me a list of every user inside of my AWS accounts that haven't rotated their passwords in over 90 days. My favorite one to look at here, because I see this all too frequently when we start working with new customers, is customers that have root accounts that aren't fully secured. So in this case, we can see that there are 10 root accounts, or 10 AWS accounts with root users that don't have multi-factor authentication enabled on them. That's going to wrap it up for the demo. Before we go any further, though, I just wanted to touch on a couple little pieces of things. We didn't get into it due to time constraints, but CloudHealth does have quite a few powerful policy generators we can look at. We can notify and alert on things like missing tags. We can notify on low CPU usage. These are things that we want to go look at when resources come online or ongoing work with things. Maybe we can identify other resizing opportunities down the line. There are budgeting alerts we can set up as well in here too. So we do get quite a few notifications going once we start bringing customers on board and start using this tool. In general, if you're going to use any sort of, and you want to maintain those costs and rein them back in, because as Jonathan said earlier, sprawl is really easy in the cloud. You need to be able to have a tool to measure it, and CloudHealth is really going to give you that insight into your usage and help us with identifying areas of improvement. Jonathan, it's all yours.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jason. That was a really informative kind of review of CloudHealth. And, like Jason said, it is an extremely powerful platform. And, we talk about people, processes, and tools. And I think that's a good illustration of an amazing tool like CloudHealth can really drive a lot of savings and optimization, but it does require you to have some people that have a deep understanding of how to use that platform to really drive those improvements and to action those improvements. And you need processes in place that will then maintain and continue to apply those optimizations over time, because I hope you're not sitting still in the cloud. You're very likely moving things forward and constantly evolving. So it really does need to bring everything together. And that really brings me to the next topic, which is how Mission can help. So as we mentioned earlier, we keep talking about cloud optimization as a journey, right? And those people, processes, and tools that you need to be successful. Now, some of you in the audience will have people in-house to manage this. Some of you will already have some processes in place and even some tools. But I'm guessing that most of you have some gaps somewhere in that process. And our goal here is to kind of educate everyone on the things that you need to be doing and give you an understanding of what activities can really drive cost optimization. But we also want to make sure that you know that we can be there to support you and help you, right? And let's start off with the most lightweight way to get started. So this is Mission Cloud Foundation. So Cloud Foundation is a value-added service from Mission that provides cost optimization, best practice alignment, and governance to help you become more efficient, okay? And it's value-added because it's offered at no cost. So it's a completely cost-neutral service as part of Mission's AWS resale program. So by purchasing your AWS spend through Mission, you get access to Cloud Foundation for free. And so what do you get? Well, you get regular cadence calls with a Mission Cloud Analyst like Jason, who will configure CloudHealth and Mission's default reports and automation that can really drive that cost management, best practice monitoring, and granular reporting, right? So the access to CloudHealth is included. And so typically that would have a cost, but this would give it to you at no cost. And this is combined with the people like Jason, the Cloud Analyst, and the processes that we've developed at Mission to really drive that continuous improvement, right? Now, we rolled out Cloud Foundation earlier this year after working with customers to really dial it in and provide a lot of value. And like I said, it's a great zero commitment place to get started in your journey, okay? Now that said, I am guessing that every single person on this call has been asked by their board or their leadership or somebody to instantly start saving money. So we have heard that from our customers. I know everyone's under pressure, and as a result, we've launched a new program this month called, or actually last month, called the Mission Instant Discount Program, or IDP. Now, this program is designed to save instant savings, okay? Up to 5% off your AWS bill immediately for 12 months, and there's no commitment, right? No long-term commitment. So to be clear, for most customers, there are significant additional savings well above 5%. But the nice thing about IDP, it gives you guaranteed savings immediately, right? And there's opportunities that flow out of that to give us, ability to drive more savings over time. So I'll give you an example. Just last week, we onboarded a customer into Cloud Foundation and the IDP program. And within a week, we were able to identify another 15% in reduction of their bill, right? So it's obviously a pretty incredible way to get started. And when you enroll in IDP, you automatically get all the benefits of Cloud Foundation. So it builds on top of Cloud Foundation and that resale program. And that allows you to also get these predictable savings without any commitment. And then we can drive ahead from there. So we do have a simple survey, which is provided at the end of this presentation that will help you see if you qualify for the program. So I definitely encourage you to take a look at that. So that's the IDP program, an excellent tool in the tool belt. And for those of you who are looking to drive significant additional savings, we should talk about a couple of the most useful tools to drive optimization in AWS: reserved instances and savings plans. So for those of you who aren't aware, these are financial instruments made available by AWS that let you provide commitments on your compute spend in exchange for deep discounts, okay? Now, I'm sure that many of you are already deploying RIs and savings plans, but there are some challenges, right? They're very complex, and they come in many different shapes and sizes, with trade-offs, different commitment terms, upfront capital costs, risks, and some of you will have strong in-house resources and tools to manage this on your own, and that's great. But for those of you who don't, or you don't want to take the financial risk, Mission has created this RIO program, which stands for Reserved Instance Optimization, and it's an outsourced reservation management program. And Mission procures and manages savings plans and reserved instances on your behalf with no capital required. So most customers today that buy RIs and savings plans typically go with one-year reservations and often go with no upfront spend or partial upfront spend because they're not willing to get those high reservation coverage rates because of the financial risks or the upfront capital cost. So Mission has its own internal marketplace, and we have well over 100 AWS resale customers. We're able to leverage these longer-term commitments for better savings, and we hit average coverage rates of 90% or above for our customers in the RIO program. The other big benefit here is we're also a lot more dynamic, right? As your instances change and your workloads shift, we're able to actually move unused reservations out of your environment and into other customer environments to make sure that you're not having unused reservations. So the great thing is that we have tooling and resources that monitor this 24/7. So you can introduce new instances, you can re-architect, and you can continue to go about your business, and Mission will adjust to these changes automatically. So this is really an autopilot plan for RIs and savings plans. And we will use the best tool for the job to get the highest degree of optimization possible in your environment. It does have a longer cycle to get going with than IDP does, because IDP can be instantly achieved. With RIO, we need to actually go in and do some analysis on your account. So frequently, what we advise customers to do is to get started with Cloud Foundation and the IDP program, and then we'll immediately start saving at 5% targets, and then we can dive in and start evaluating if the RIO program is right for you, and we can transition to do that program to get more savings over time. Okay? So that's the RIO program. So one note here is that on average, customers see a 210% increase in RI optimization and 7 to 24% monthly cost savings. And that's been over the program's life so far. So we're really excited about the program. Customers seem to love it. It really helps you ramp up your usage of RIs and savings plans. So I do see some questions rolling in. I will definitely address those as we get to the end. But let's keep moving. So we did talk a lot here about financial programs. So the Cloud Foundation and IDP and RIO programs all are leveraging a lot of financial techniques to maximize your savings. Now, there are a lot more opportunities above and beyond that that require continuous improvement and re-architecture where it makes sense. So for example, if you think about a reserved instance, if you purchase a one-year standard RI, on average, you're going to save roughly 30% over on-demand prices. But if instead, or in addition, you implement a lights-out policy for instances so that you shut them down, for 8 hours at night and then, during the entire weekend, you can actually cut your costs by half. So you have to start thinking strategically about what you can do above and beyond, kind of the financial mechanisms. Some of the other techniques included in here include breaking your monolithic workloads down into independently scalable microservices. And this can really help better align your usage with spend. It can reduce your operational costs, and actually it can also do things like improve performance and time to market. So we help customers with this all the time. In addition, you can move off of self-managed infrastructure. So we encounter customers all the time who are managing their own MySQL or SQL Server or Oracle instances inside of EC2. And if you instead adopt AWS's managed services like RDS, DocumentDB, Elasticache, etc., that can reduce your operational costs and drive a lot of savings. Another common challenge we see that we mentioned earlier, customers often face licensing challenges. So if you're using services with prohibitive licensing costs like SQL Server or Oracle, you can move to alternate services that AWS provides, such as Aurora, and you can greatly reduce that burden, right? And that makes a massive impact, but it does require some effort. So look, there's a lot of opportunity here, and most of these opportunities to find more cost-effective resources, they can actually come out of the recommendations in Cloud Foundation. So even if you have the internal resources to execute on those recommendations, we can help you identify and surface as many of them as possible. And if not, we can help with the heavy lifting. So let's talk about a cost optimization journey. We really want to bring this all together before we move into Q&A. And this is just one path. As I said, everyone's looking for ways to cut costs, but a lot of us aren't sure how or where to get started. So if you find yourself feeling that way, here is one path that you could take to start that cost optimization journey. So across the top here, we have 4 stages. So the first is to not tackle everything at once. Use tools that you have available to you to get a deeper look at what you're spending. So AWS provides AWS Trusted Advisor, for example, or you can adopt cloud-native tools like CloudHealth, and you can start targeting low-hanging fruit for quick savings, things like unused EBS volumes or unused reservations, and zombie instances, etc. This is a really good place to get started. Next, at stage 2, you can start to explore the financial tools, right? The RIs and savings plans to further reduce your costs where it makes sense. So we don't recommend doing these mega purchases in reactive mode. Try to be strategic and focus on well-known, steady-state workloads that are running on newer AWS instance types. If you have legacy instance types, which you plan to change later, then focus on compute savings plans rather than RIs, or look at a service like Rio to help you. Lastly, it's important that you measure the performance of these changes because you don't want to fall back into the continuous climb, right? So to do this, you can leverage more tools and processes, leverage CloudWatch, for example. And again, think about native tools like CloudHealth, right, that can provide strong policy engines for better governance. Once you have that governance and visibility in place, you're going to want to monitor it and refine it as needed. And start having conversations internally that are design related and strategic to your business. So internally at Mission, what we like to do is we like to build an effort versus savings impact matrix, which helps keep us focused. And we do this for our customers as well. So if you feel you need resources to help with this work, or even a second pair of eyes, Mission has a variety of services. So we walked across those 4 different phases on the top of this slide. Across the bottom, we have our own services that we've reviewed that map to those activities, right? So Cloud Foundation and IDP can help you get started unlocking those low-hanging fruits and get some immediate savings. Then you can transition into Rio, right, where we will manage those savings plans, private pricing, other cost-cutting measures automatically for you on autopilot. You can create policy statements to implement governance through our Cloud Foundation program. And then finally, you or we can help you do re-architecture to unlock future cost optimization. So that is the entire cost optimization journey. And at a minimum, if you do have a few minutes, I would recommend that you go to the survey at the end and see if you qualify for the IDP program. We'd love to talk to you. I know there's going to be lots of questions. So with that, let's dive right in. So I'm going to advance forward here to Q&A. And what I'm actually going to do is go ahead and put this slide up so you can see. where to go. And if you're interested in qualifying, go to missioncloud.com/IDP. You can also email sales@missioncloud.com or call us at 1-855-647-7466. So let's start talking through some of the questions. So first question is, can I still buy reserved instances if I'm on the IDP program? So the answer to that is yes, absolutely. IDP does not prevent you from buying RIs or savings plans. You get the full benefit of them and the IDP discount on that as well on upfront payments made. So they are independent. You are absolutely able to do both. It's a great question. Let's see. How does Mission make money? That is an excellent question. And I'm glad that someone made that a transparent question. It's a good one. So we're one of AWS's largest resellers nationwide. So we leverage our reseller status and our consolidated buying power to support these programs, right? And they generate, in some cases, significant savings for our customers. And that includes the resources and tools that we provide. It's also worth noting there's no extra cost for you to work with us, and we're 100% cost neutral by default design. And again, on top of what we help, we can drive further savings there and discounting with your account. So we make money through that reseller arrangement and by sharing there. Let's see. Next question, are there long-term commitments? Good question. So there are no long-term commitments for our resale program. So Cloud Foundation and IDP are month-to-month agreements, so no long-term agreements. If you do want to go into the Reserved Instance Optimization program, which is a much more heavyweight kind of program to really drive a lot of additional savings with RIs and savings plans, we do require a one-year commitment to Mission as your resale partner. And that's because we need to minimize that risk and increase the pool of customers so everyone can realize larger savings as part of the program. Okay. So I did note that this slide only has the phone number, but it doesn't see the link. It looks like the BrightTalk platform has stripped that out, so it's hard to see, but it is missioncloud.com/IDP. We will make certain that we follow up with you all afterwards with that information as well so that you can get in touch with us. Let's see. Someone asked, they missed the first little bit of the presentation, did we address storage optimization? So yes, we did briefly. Storage optimization is one component. So for example, unused EBS or unattached EBS volumes. There's a lot of recommendations that we really cover. And a tool like CloudHealth or Trusted Advisor inside the AWS ecosystem can really surface a lot more of those recommendations about what to do. But we have a lot of experience providing optimization on storage as well. So good question.
Jonathan, can I chime in on that as well?
Please do.
All right. So one of the things that CloudHealth gives you a lot of visibility into is the various different tiers of storage that are in use. So you can actually take a peek at your trends over time. You know, what buckets are costing me the most money? What tier of storage am I using? Am I in S3 standard versus in frequent access or reduced redundancy or in Glacier? And there's all sorts of really beautiful graphs that can really help you make some great business decisions on that. So it's not just about EBS storage or S3. There's other functionality we can use too. I didn't get to show it all in the demo, but it is there.
Absolutely, that's great. Another question, do you have to buy AWS services through Mission to get IDP? And the answer to that is yes. It is a program that is built on top of the resale program. So you would need to transition to us as your reseller in order to qualify for the program, and so that we can provide those services to you. Another good question here. Do you take over the management of my instances? Do I still have SSH access to the instances? Can I run scripts against them to control start and stop and so on? So there's actually another question as part of this. I'll start with that first part. As Cloud Foundation and Rio and IDP programs for cost optimization, we do not take over the management of your instances. You have the ability to spin them up and down at will. It's still fully self-service. you can maintain any sort of access that you had before, and you are still having full access to your AWS account. So there's no restrictions on you from that perspective. Now, I will say, if you are looking for someone to help you with managing your environment, so monitoring, managing your instances and your entire infrastructure footprint, doing 24/7 support, incident response, things like that, we do have services for that, but those are separate services from the ones we've talked about today. And finally, let's talk about the second question here. How do you ensure proper data isolation so we don't have to have any leakage to other customers of ours? Good question. So there is no risk of that as part of the IDP program or Cloud Foundation or Rio. So the great thing is we are leveraging the AWS has a very extensive account structuring system so that we can link you to master payer accounts, and it leaves your actual usage separated out, which is great. So there is complete isolation. You don't have to worry on that front. Okay, another question here. AWS has cost optimization tools as well. At what point would a small to medium-sized company benefit from using your services? Good question. So I think the short answer to this question is please do get in touch with us, and we can do a free consultation to kind of walk through if you're a good fit for any of these programs. We would love to talk to you, and we can tell you right away, like, this is something we really think you could do on your own, and here's some of our recommendations. We're more than happy to establish that relationship, and we can engage later. We just want you to save money, right? But if there are things that make sense where we can help you and we can really derive those savings, we will let you know about that. And AWS's tools that they have built in, from Trusted Advisor and Cost Explorer, these are great tools, okay? But as your workloads grow and as you acquire more and more visibility, better tools and more in-depth tools like CloudHealth can really, really help. And we can also set you up with a free trial of CloudHealth if that's something you're interested in. It's just such a great platform that can help drive improvements. So good question. Thank you for that. Okay, another question here, fairly tactical but a good one, is would we have to recreate root accounts and redesign IAM and MFA if we're going to leverage IDP or the Rio program? And the question is, generally speaking, the answer to that is no, right? We're using, again, the account structuring kind of systems that are available to us as an AWS reseller to link you to our master payer accounts and so on. Now, there are restrictions, there are qualifications and all that, and again, but MFA would not be affected, IAM would not be affected necessarily. Again, the best way to really get in depth into detail would be to reach out to us via kind of the information we've shared, sales@missioncloud.com, or the survey that is an attachment or link on this webinar that you can see, and the data sheets as well, and then to have the conversation, right? Jason, do you have anything to add about that?
No, we have customers that join that have MFA set up within organizations all the time, and we can accommodate. It's not quite as straightforward, but it's definitely doable. Right, exactly.
So perfect. So we are reaching the end of our time, and I want to make sure we get to all the questions. It looks like we got to most of them. Just to reiterate, we talked about a lot today, and there's so many things that you have to keep in mind when you're trying to save, and I know it's overwhelming, but we really want to let you know we're here to help. And even if it isn't a service that we're providing you, reach out, and we're happy to have a conversation. We've got a lot of expertise that can help guide this down, and we really want to help you optimize. So at this time when we're all struggling to unlock these things and cut costs, it's important we try to help everybody out. So don't hesitate to reach out. It's been a pleasure. The other thing I'll point out and remind is there are attachments and links on this webinar, so some PDFs around the IDP program, the Cloud Foundation program, and our reserved instance optimization service. And one more time, a reminder is missioncloud.com/IDP for more information. So Thank you so much for spending time with us today. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to hearing from many of you. Jason, anything else from you?
No, sir, you covered it all. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and we look forward to keeping the conversation going.